What's up, everyone? Thank you for checking out and supporting this episode of Raised A Geek. This week, we talk about House of the Dragon Season 2. How was the follow-up to the outstanding first season? Did it capture the brilliance of Game of Thrones at its best, or did it stumble into the missteps of the infamous Season 8? Let's find out. I'm Chris, and as always, I'm here with my buddy, Don. How we doing, man?
Chris, what is up today, my friend? Everything is good as you sip from your Final Fantasy coffee mug from C2E2, isn't it? Wasn't
Yeah,
it? Final Fantasy. We're Final Fantasy guys. Pretty cool.
unless it's
Uh,
Rebirth.
yeah, but I'll always be a Final Fantasy guy.
Oh, yeah.
They're always gonna get me, even on games that aren't as fun as the others. But I'm okay. Everything is good. Just enjoying the weekend. Enjoying a little preseason NFL, a little end of
Opening week.
opening week, a little fitting in some Olympics here and there as they end today, I think is the closing
Yeah,
ceremonies. Yeah, man, just doing the thing, doing the weekend thing. So everything is good. How are you?
same. Like you
Yeah.
said, opening weekend for football. Got Hard Knocks,
Mhm.
Chicago Bears. Got to see
Mm,
Caleb Williams do his initial things. Trying to figure out if we actually have a football team. So very excited about that. Like I said,
yeah.
wrapping up the Olympics, wrapping up, kicking off football, watching the box office trends to see how low Borderlands could go.
Ooh, man, oh man,
Became an obsession.
that Borderlands, it's one of those things where it's just like watching a train wreck or a car wreck. It's like it's terrible, it's horrible, but you can't look away and you have to pay attention to the I'm not like trying to revel in the downfall, but also part of me is like it's kind of like the same effect of Suicide Squad Kill the Justice League bombing.
Yeah.
One of those things where it's like, yeah, if you just weren't so sloppy with this and did a better job on it, then it wouldn't have be in the position it's in.
What's
So,
what?
and it's I can't even like really say that with definitive whatever because I haven't seen the movie, but I'm believing everything I see. Everything I see, I haven't seen one good thing about it. Everyone says it's like a dumpster fire. So, I don't know.
What's funny in both examples that you gave were the biggest misstep in those is that those were movies and games that probably should have been released 5 to 10 years earlier.
Uh-huh.
So now you're getting a Borderlands movie. It's like Borderlands 3 has already been out for like 6 years or something stupid. Anybody who was interested in a Borderlands movie probably isn't anymore or have aged out of whatever it is. I've played very little Borderlands, so I don't fully know. But just looking at the movie, it was like this movie looks like it would have been made 20 years ago, and it probably would have been like groundbreaking. But looking at it now, I'm just like, huh. And then I realized when I was asking people about it, the response I got repeatedly was, I don't know what that is.
Like the
They're like, hey, you
game.
want to see Borderlands this weekend? They're like,
Well,
I don't know what that is. And I'm just like,
no.
problem.
Well, it seemed like the studio gave up on marketing once they realized what they really had. Like there was a
Probably.
couple trailers, and then you never heard much about it. It wasn't all over TV. It wasn't on billboards. It wasn't being talked about. So I think they knew that it was going to be bad. Um, and it kind of sucks because we've talked about it here on the show. All the things like lately over the past year or couple years, like video games adaptations have been coming back and like bringing respectability to that genre again, like
Um,
with Twisted Metal and The Last of Us and Fallout. Like people are saying video game adaptations can be good. Look, when you actually care about it and make it right and like
respect the source material.
respect the source material, you can really make some good stuff. There's a ton of stories that can be told with video games, but then you get something like Borderlands that are like, see, told you, video games can't be good
Right.
adaptations. So
Right.
what? Yeah, bummer.
It really is. It really
Yeah,
is.
yeah.
Now, how do you feel? Now, it's not just kind of a weird sidebar, but I always feel more morbid curiosity when a movie flops. Like, I remember when Solo came out and flopped, and we're like, wait, a Star Wars movie is flopping? Nobody is seeing this thing? How bad does this thing have to be? Like, what went wrong? And I went to the show like the next week and watched it to see, and it wasn't bad. And I fully believe that if I go watch Borderlands, I'm sure it's fine. I doubt it's. I mean, is anything really like unwatchable bad or horrible? Like, is can it really be as bad as it says, as they say? Um, but my morbid curiosity is starting to show, and I'm mad at myself.
I have the ability, I believe, to fight those urges because I still haven't seen things like Morbius and Madam Web and Venom 2, and there's a whole list of things like Aquaman 2 that I'm just like, these are things that are made for a guy like me who likes this kind of stuff, but just the word that how bad they are, like, nah, I'm okay. I'm fine never seeing certain things. Borderlands might be one of them.
I wouldn't be surprised if I never watched it.
Yeah,
If
time
I
will
if
tell.
I make it through the next like week and
Yeah,
don't go to the show to see it, there's a chance I'll probably never watch it.
yeah. Until it pops up on like Netflix in a year or
I
something,
didn't
and
watch
then
Madam Web and it popped up on Netflix.
yeah, even then, I still may never do it.
I still haven't watched The Flash. That's popped up on both Netflix and Max. I haven't watched, and like I
Mhm.
said, any of those DC movies I haven't watched, and they've all been readily available to me. But I'm just like, I do not want to spend 2.5 hours of my life watching this movie.
Yep, Borderlands might fall into that camp, my friend.
But we'll see. Kind of crazy, kind of crazy. The other thing that's going on this weekend that I've kind of been paying attention to, and we don't really have much to talk about it, so don't worry if you're waiting for House of the Dragon stuff because we're about to get there. D23, basically Disney's own conference that they had or press convention or whatever. I don't know what D23 is, but they do all kinds of announcements. So I've been watching all the different fan camp things of like Avatar 3 got its subtitle. So I watched James Cameron talk about that. I saw some Disney trailers coming out, Moana
And
2, announcement for Toy Story 5, which isn't coming until like 2026, and everyone in the crowd was like, ugh. Tron Ares, which is Tron
then
3, which I never thought would happen, but I found it hilarious because they announced that Nine Inch Nails was doing the music for Tron 3. And if you watch the reveal video of that where they put the Nine Inch Nails logo out, you hear one girl, one woman scream. Like, it's like no one else seemed to care, but that one person, I loved all of that energy that one person decided to drop for
right.
Nine Inch Nails. I'm like, they had one.
She's just like, I'm getting a new Nine Inch Nails album out of this.
That was what I thought. So I was like,
Yeah,
huh. I didn't think
right.
I thought Trent Reznor said he wasn't going to do any more Nine Inch Nails stuff. So, but
That's interesting. Interesting.
you got that Disney money. Disney money
Uh-huh.
can work some magic, things that you never thought would happen. Um,
The
happen.
mouse pays. Mickey Mouse
Mickey
pays.
Mouse does pay. But then, of course, because it is a Disney, we did get some Star Wars and we did get some Marvel stuff. We didn't really watch much of anything. I know I watched the Skeleton Crew trailer for Star Wars.
Uh,
Did you happen to check that one out?
No, not yet.
Um,
I know Jude Law's in it and maybe a Jedi, and that's enough to have people excited.
yeah, until you watch the trailer.
Okay.
Well, no, and I can't shit on it because I'm 90% sure that it's a children's show. Like the whole main cast are like 10-year-olds.
Okay.
So I really feel like it's a show that's just not made for adults. Um,
Possible.
it definitely felt like a kid show. So I was like, okay, this one's probably not going to be. I'm not going to give too much energy to this because I just don't see
Sure.
based off of that first trailer. But that was the only. I think they announced the Mandalorian Grogu movie,
Uh-huh.
which would be.
Which is already talked about, but maybe now it's a solid thing.
Yeah, I saw an announcement for that. The thing that came out the most across these panels that am dying to see more of is Daredevil Born Again.
Yeah.
I watched the stage presentation where they brought out the whole cast and John Barenthal's the Punisher and just all of this stuff and like I said, I know we've talked on and off little bits about these Netflix Marvel shows that they did and how they mixed bag of what, but Daredevil, I've stuck with Daredevil. That was the one I watched all 3
Mhm.
seasons of Daredevil and really wanted more and thought that show was like perfect. So the
Yeah.
idea that we're still getting more is insane to me, and they really seem like they're going out of their way to do it right. So I'm super excited about that.
These like whenever San Diego Comic Con and Disney Plus Day are always only like a few weeks apart from each other, at least for the past few years. And like Marvel does a little bit at San Diego, then they do a little bit at Disney Day, and they show this footage or these trailers to a room of people. And then it takes a long time for sometimes these things to come out publicly. I'm
It
always like,
does.
why not just you have it? you have it ready. Why isn't it as soon as you showed it at Disney Day? That thing, all these trailers should have been out. Like, okay, you let that room of people see it. Now let us see it officially. So I don't think it'll probably be that long before some of these things start coming out. But yeah, Marvel did have its nice little corner of things for Disney Day. They say for Disney Day, like you said, Daredevil. I think they showed a new Captain America trailer. I think there's an Ironheart teaser, and I do believe they showed like their Fantastic Four trailer again, the same one they showed at San Diego.
Yeah,
So there is a trailer for that. Just like, all right, give it to all of us now, please.
please,
So
please.
yeah, all that stuff is yet to come, but it's cool that it's out there, and we know it's just, I don't know, days, weeks, however much away from us being able to see all this.
Yeah, I'm ready to talk about whatever they're gonna do. The one of the more interesting things I swear I heard before the video got cut off on someone's cell phone when I was, exploring the depths of YouTube was Kevin Feige saying that the cast of Daredevil is about to be busy at work on season 2.
Mm.
And I was like,
Mm-hmm.
we already getting a season 2? I already know. I mean, I know season 1 is set to come out in March. It was set to have the most episodes of any Disney Plus show, or they're saying like 16 or 12 or something crazy
Something like
like that,
Yeah.
compared to the 6 or 8 that we normally get. So, I mean, it's going to be a lot more content. And if they're already working on season 2, that's some high praise or some hope that we're going to dig what we got. So,
I'm also happy with like, if you an episode ago, or was it 2 episodes ago, when we talked about Deadpool Wolverine, which was a smashing success, getting ready to cross $1 billion if it hasn't already.
it did this weekend.
Yeah. And that movie was just like straight up rated R, blood, everything. So you got to believe that they're looking at that like, we can make a lot of money doing stuff like this. And Daredevil is very mature themed, or it has been on Netflix. And this gives me more, hope, and, it alleviates my fears that Daredevil was going to get Disneyfied, quote unquote,
Yeah,
because clearly they're not afraid to do the R-rated thing when it calls for it, like they did with Deadpool Wolverine. So I'm hoping that this new season of Daredevil has that same Netflix feel, or can go a little deeper into that, because that's kind of what that show needs. Don't get me wrong, Daredevil's fun in She-Hulk, and he's fun to see doing those kind of things, but I need me some bare knuckle, bloody, beating people to a pulp Daredevil that I'm used to. So
well, and I think Echo showed that they're willing to a point
yes.
too. I think we'll get Echo level. Echo had its moments of some brutality and some violence and stuff. Still wasn't, I don't know,
Quite
grimy
up to
enough.
Yeah.
But
It was a little too bright.
yeah, it was still a little too bright, but it had the violence was there. Just the tone was a little off. So I have a feeling, since they have a lot of the same original people, that they're going to do this. I believe they're going to do it right. It almost makes me want to be like, okay, this holiday season, do I need to rewatch Daredevil?
Right.
Because it's been a minute. I don't know when season 3 came out, but I feel like that's been a long time ago already.
Might have to plan us a Daredevil rewatch.
I never watched Punisher, so
yeah.
I feel like I got some Netflix Marvel content to catch up on Disney Plus.
Let's see.
Yeah. But you know what? That's what's going on this weekend. Last weekend, we had the finale of the House of Dragon season 2, and we want to talk about it. We hadn't get a chance to talk about any kind of really episodes. They kind of show started. We had other stuff. We were doing Deadpool and getting ready for all that, and we really just never found an opportunity to jump in and talk about it. So we said, well, let's wait until it's over. Let's get that finale. Let's put our thoughts together, and we're going to try to talk about the whole season, more or less. At least the big parts.
For better or worse, more or less.
Better or worse, more or less. And I've been super excited to talk to you about this, because we really haven't chatted too much about this show. If you go back into the archives of our history of this show, I think 2 years ago we talked quite a bit about season 1. I want to say we almost did it weekly, or we definitely talked about, I think, every episode at that point.
We might have, yeah.
somewhere in there. There was a lot. We might have grouped a couple together, but for the most part, we talked about every episode. We were very excited for this. We were big Game of Thrones fans,
Mhm.
and very excited to have Game of Thrones universe back on our TVs on Sunday nights. I have no idea what I'm gonna do this tonight. I'm like, I got nothing to watch tonight. It's back
Yeah,
to waiting for Penguin six
got about a
weeks.
month. Yeah,
So kind of bummed, not
yeah,
completely, because as you'll find out about House of Dragon. But I'm kind of glad that we had it.
yeah. Me too.
So
Agreed.
let's talk about House of Dragon season 2. And I put together a little synopsis just to kind of catch up as to everything that's going on, everything that happened to this season as kind of a refresher, where we are, what we're going to talk about type moment. So hold on with me, and I'm going to read this, and we'll see how it goes.
I'm here for it.
All right. So as a reminder, Don, this is for you. House of the Dragon Season 2 takes us deeper into the brutal Targaryen civil war known as the Dance of Dragons. This season is marked by escalating tensions and devastating consequences as Rhaenyra Targaryen and Aegon II Targaryen battle for control of the Iron Throne. The war intensifies when Daemon Targaryen, acting on his own, orchestrates the assassination of Aegon II's son, Jaehaerys, in a brutal and shocking move that sends the realm into further chaos. Rhaenyra, though not directly involved in this plot, is left to deal with the fallout as her claim to the throne becomes even more contentious. This act of vengeance by Daemon escalates the conflict and sets the stage for a series of violent confrontations, including the devastating dragon battle at Rook's Rest, where Rhaenys Velaryon and her dragon Meleys,
Malaise, like Malaise sauce. I don't know.
well, that dragon's dead because it fell to Aemond and Vhagar, shifting the power dynamics dramatically. As the season draws to a close, both Rhaenyra and Aegon II remains entrenched in their positions, setting the stage for even greater conflict and bloodshed in the battles to come. Did I say Aemon? No, I didn't. This season lays bare the devastating impact of power struggles within the Targaryen family, providing plenty of material for us to discuss, from the key battles and political maneuvers to the complex character dynamics and ethical questions that define this chapter of House of the Dragon. And that's what happened this season. Lots happened. We're going to dive into it. Before we do, though, we want to talk about Magic Mind.
Before we dive into the drama of House of the Dragon, let me tell you about something that's been an absolute game changer for me, especially when I'm navigating the twists and turns of Westeros and beyond. I'm talking about Magic Mind, the productivity shot that's become a staple in my daily routine. Magic Mind is this tiny productivity shot that's packed with natural ingredients like matcha and lion's mane, kind of like the Lannisters, as well as a variety of functional mushrooms. Each ingredient is carefully selected to give you a steady boost of energy, help you focus, and keep stress at bay. It's like having your own personal maester, but instead of managing scrolls and potions, it's all about helping you stay on top of your game, whether you're tackling the politics of the Iron Throne or just your everyday to-do list. What really makes Magic Mind stand out for me is the convenience of their subscription service. Imagine having that little boost of focus delivered right to your door every month. No more running out just when you need that energy the most. And the best part, if you choose to subscribe, you can get up to 48% off. That's almost half of regular price. It's perfect for anyone who, like me, needs that consistent, reliable energy to get through every day. If you're not ready to commit to a subscription just yet, no worries. You can still get 20% off a one-time purchase with our code RaisedAGeek20. Whether you need a daily dose or just a little extra energy for those intense moments, Magic Mind has got you covered. So head over to magicmind.com/RaisedAGeek and use my code RaisedAGeek20. Trust me, whether you go for the subscription and save 48% or try it out with 20% off, it's a move you will not regret. If you're interested in trying Magic Mind for yourself, all the details, including the link and discount codes, are right there in the episode description. Scroll down and you'll find everything you need to get started with your own subscription or your one-time purchase. You do not want to miss out on this deal. Now let's get back to the dragons.
So that's kind of where we were for the season. But first, as we always do, Don, I want to know, how'd you feel about season 2? Where was your excitement coming into the season, and where is it now?
Yes. So My excitement was
spoiler free or spoilers. Just fuck it, spoilers.
Yeah,
say what you want to say.
We're already doing spoilers. Spoilers, guys, for those who haven't finished House of the Dragon season 2. If you are interested at all, and you want to hear our conversation, we're going to talk some spoilers now. So go finish it up. Come back to us. We'll be waiting.
We ain't going nowhere. Yeah, we ain't going nowhere.
Yeah, my excitement level going in was high, because it's been 2 years, pretty much to the day, since the first season, which is a long time. I know shows of this magnitude take a long time to make, I'm sure, but just like 2 years seems like a long time.
Mm-hmm.
And I enjoyed season 1 like a lot because we've been over it. Like you said, we talked about season 1 a lot, but that show was better. The first season was better than I expected it to be. I didn't know what to really expect, especially the way Game of Thrones ended. We've also been on record as both saying we love Game of Thrones as like what it represents, but really, it's well documented and out there, and a lot of people feel the same way that show kind of just like killed its own legacy at the end with its final season, maybe even final 2 seasons, and it's like a very love-hate relationship with Game of Thrones.
Mm-hmm.
You love everything it has brought you, and the entertainment, and the whole world is talking about it when it's good, and it's on top of everything, and people love the characters, and then just to go out with such like a whimper there at the end. And that's kind of where I sit with this season, man. It's hard to place, and it's hard to really explain. I don't know how I can love something and hate something at the same time. That kind of is where I'm at with this. If this show would have ended season or episode 7, at the end of episode 7, maybe like the episode where Rhaenyra or Aemon flies in with Rhaegar and then turns around because he sees Rhaenyra now has three more dragons, and she's standing there looking. If that would have been the finale, I'd have been like, let's go. But the last episode of this season completely changed my mind on how I feel about this entire season. And we can kind of get into it. Something went wrong there to me at the end. I read things that this was supposed to be a 10-episode season. HBO mandated it be 8, and then things got mixed up with like rewrites. They couldn't do it because of the writer's strike, and things just kind of went awry, and they had to smash everything into 8 episodes instead of 10. I don't know, whatever the case is, there's still kind of no excuse to me for the last episode of this season. I felt like I just watched a 70-minute trailer for season 3 where nothing happened.
Yeah.
And we'll get into it, but as a whole, but then I turn around and I'm like, there were so many parts of this show that I did enjoy. Like, it's like screenshots, it's like clips. Like, I can pick this part. I loved this. I loved how much they use the dragons. I love how much we got to know some of the characters more. So there's things I did enjoy, but then I have this other side. It's like a I don't know. I'm a Libra, and it's the scales. It's like the scales, man. They're weighing one direction and the other direction. It's hard to know. But I'm still thinking about it sometimes, and we're sitting here talking about it. So I don't know. It's hard to say. Maybe I'll figure it out a little more throughout the course of this conversation. But it's a mixed bag for me, man. And I don't know what to do with these thoughts. So we'll sort them out. But yeah, I don't know. What did you think of this season of television?
Kind of similar. I can't necessarily just say that the finale wore me down or changed my opinion of the season. I think it would have been the same regardless. Especially, I don't know, somewhere in there, the back like 3 episodes, pretty much after the battle at Rook's Rest, like that seemed to be the climax of the season. And once that happened, it seemed like everything happened in slow motion, and those like back 3 episodes, just nothing happened. And I know things did, but it felt like nothing was big, nothing like, it seemed like that they climaxed out in that episode, in episode like 4 or 5 or whatever it was. And then it just kind of seemed like the episode would end and I would be like, what the hell did I just watch? So I struggled with the pacing. I struggled with the dialogue a lot of the time, and just some of the character motivations really bothered me, and how they really just, I didn't know who I was supposed to be rooting for. I struggled with just the characters and just kind of what they were doing. Now, all in all, as I'm going through like when I was making notes for this, I'm like, oh, let's pick out some big moments. And as I'm going through the big moments that we did have, I was like, oh yeah, that was super cool. I forgot about that. This is cool. Yeah, that was awesome. But it's so, when you have these episodes that are like an hour and 15 minutes and you have like one or two moments that are cool, but then the rest is just talking. And like the political intrigue conversations didn't really sit well. There was just really just a weird shift with it. I didn't think about the writer's strike maybe getting in the way or some of those other things that kind of just made it so it's not as tight as the first season was, but it just didn't feel, it felt like it lost something from season one. Something that season one had that season two just didn't. And I don't know if it was maybe just Jaharis, which was cool. Like he was one of the shining characters in the first season. Like I really liked King Jaharis. Jaharis?
Was that his name? The dad, right?
Yeah. He was Jaharis. I'm just making sure I pronounce it right.
Yeah, so you're probably close.
But yeah, I mean, he was like a standout for me. Like I loved his performance and with Patty Constantine.
I was very happily surprised that he did appear in this season a couple times in flashbacks. I was like, he came back for just a few lines. That's nice.
Yeah, it's cool. And they said in the post credits thing that it was his idea to do it, the makeup and look decrepit and do all that. So that was super cool. Like I said, there was a lot to like, but there was just also a lot to not like. The finale was definitely one where like you said, it should have ended before. My thing was, and I know you can argue with it for me, but when they ended season one, I remember watching the showrunners and they're like, now starts the war, like we did all these time jumps and started all of this stuff in season one. So these characters. So when they go to war in season two, you're ready. There was no war in season two. And now they're like, hey, the war, here starts the war. And I'm like, I thought the war already started.
Yeah, it's kind of almost like, why should I believe you now? Why should I believe season 3 is going to be it? Season 2 was supposed to be it.
Yeah.
If you really think about it, season 1 ended with Aemond killing Rhaenyra's younger son and his dragon, and that was the start of the war. Those same feelings she had at the end of the first season, looking all mad and like wanting revenge, those are the same feelings we have now, and nothing's happened.
Yeah.
There's been no battle. There's been 8 episodes of preparing for a big war, and that is not a successful. I don't think that's like what you really should have set out to do. I think we should have had more impactful moments in season 2. When people look back at this series, they're going to look at season 2 as like, that's just kind of a filler season that just got us from season 1 to season 3. If what they say is supposed to happen, because now it's also been announced that the show's ending after 4. So there's, it's supposed to be 4 seasons total. But like looking at season 2, it's like, what happened in season 2? Not a lot. Just like she gathered a couple more dragons and figured out that, you don't have to be a highborn to ride a dragon, and use that to her advantage. And like, Aegon got burned and now Aemon's in charge, and like, okay, that's all that happened. And Aemon and Daemon was just fucking around at Luigi's mansion the entire season. Just like, that's all it was. Like, man. And again, I don't want to sound like I'm hating too much, because there was a lot of things I liked. You said in the last 3 episodes, not a lot happened. I loved the taming of Verminthor in the dragon pit. I liked that whole sequence of, her sending down all the potential riders for him. And
where Hugh and Ulf got their dragons.
They were
cool scenes. I'm not going to say there were not cool scenes in those episodes. They were just few and far between. But like you'd finish an hour and a half. I'd spend the last hour and a half of my Sunday scaries watching this show, wanting to be satisfied. And I most often than not, when the episode ended, I was just kind of like, okay.
Yeah. So it was just a little too much of that. Again, that's why this whole season to me is a mixed bag. But they did keep me watching. I mean, and it's hard for me to do. You and I sit here and talk about how many shows we have unfinished.
Yeah.
And for one reason or another, I kept going back to House of Dragon. And when House of Dragon season 3 comes out, I'll be excited again. And it's just this thing, because I love Westeros so much, for better or worse. Like, you keep hurting me, but I keep coming back to you. It's like, I don't know.
Yeah.
It's hard to explain.
I agree. I agree
Yeah.
100% with that. And I spent a large chunk of the time like on my phone while the show was going on, like researching Game of Thrones and like looking up the books and like answering questions and trying to figure stuff out. So like I said, yeah, the world is definitely something that I'm engaged in. I just wish the show would have made it a little bit more. And there were a couple times where it ended and I was like, I don't think I'm coming back next week. And then it would start and I'm just like, all right, let's watch it, so
Yeah.
I'm in. I'm here. I don't see myself unless they do something. And I don't even know what they would have to do at this point to make me be like, you know what? I'm done.
I'm 2 seasons in. I can do 2 more. See how they want to do this. But yeah, we'll see.
Yeah, we'll see. We'll see. Well, let's talk about some big moments of the season because there were quite a few, as we said. And I want to talk about some, I guess I was going to say good, but as I'm looking at the first in this list, it's not really a good thing. But they did, yeah, they did kick it off. They kicked it off pretty heavy with the murder of Jaehaerys.
Another
Jaehaerys. Yeah, the names on this show kill me, and I know
the whole conflict in this show is because people are named the same thing too much.
Yeah, I mean it is. That's exactly the same thing. That's exactly you're 100% right on that.
Yeah.
This is coming from a junior.
Yeah, I'm also named after my father.
You're named. Don't name your kids after yourself. Just don't do it. Nothing
too
good
much
comes
confusing.
from it.
Yeah, like growing up in your household, how many times did you hear Chris and you'd be like, yeah, and like, not you, your father. Like, what are you talking about?
Yeah. Or someone calls and they give you the phone and you're thinking someone called for you and you're like, maybe it's a girl, and they're like, no, it's some salesperson for your dad.
I'm calling for Donald. Which one?
Yeah.
There's two of us in here.
So yes, it's one of those things. So yeah, don't do it because as this show's saying, if I'm going to take anything from this show, it's don't do that because this show wouldn't exist if they had more than 3 names for their characters.
Take it from us, people who know.
Yeah, we do know. We're speaking on that. So, but it did kick off with the murder of Jaehaerys because I was going to say Daenerys. Jesus Christ. Rhaenyra.
Too many Eris. Rhaenyra, Rhaenyra.
Yeah. Rhaenyra.
Damon, Dion.
But Rhaenyra was coming out fresh off of her son being murdered by Aemond at the end of the finale of season 1. So she wanted her revenge. So she told Daemon, I want a son for a son. So she wanted Aemond's head. And Daemon kind of decided, go hire a rat catcher and a mercenary and go on in there and go kill the prince. Like, okay, that's going to go well. And it clearly didn't because they didn't get Aemond, but they still found someone and basically took the king's infant son's head. That was horrifying.
Yeah, this is like that interview. I don't know if you've ever seen that clip with Denzel Washington talking to Jamie Foxx in an interview that like made it into a meme where he was just like, I'm leaving here with something. Just like those two are like, we can't find Aemond. We're leaving here with something. Yeah, we're taking somebody out. And in classic Game of Thrones style, which is vile and brutal and pushes all the limits, they did everything they could but show it. Like they made sure you heard it.
Yeah.
But like an infant being killed while they sleep is pretty brutal. But this is Game of Thrones, man, where shit like this, they don't care.
Yeah, where they linger on the the face of the mother while it's happening, and you're just like, ugh.
Yeah,
this is horrible. But at the same time, in Game of Thrones fashion, I'm like, here we go.
Shit's turning up. They killed a kid.
It's happening. This season is gonna be insane.
Yeah.
I was amped. I was horrified, but I was amped, and that was a huge way to start the show, and just kind of really start this war in quotes that we were getting. It was, like I said, it was a great premiere.
Yeah, I think so too. Capped off by a classic, ending, which Game of Thrones has done plenty of times. Yeah. But yeah, I was really excited, which sounds bad, makes us sound like terrible people, but it's just like the world you're getting into. We've sat through stuff, we watched the Red Wedding and all kinds of crazy shit throughout Westeros. So this is not you know, I don't want to say we're desensitized to it, but we're just like Game of Thrones is gonna Game of Thrones, man. So yeah,
Yeah.
it was a good way to kick off the season, kind of set the bar, I think, pretty high.
Yeah, and
I
it
remember,
did, and maybe that was the problem.
um,
They said it too high right at the beginning, and I was expecting chaos to ensue from that, and unfortunately, we didn't really get that. It was kind of like, okay, it
yeah,
led to Damon exiling himself and other things, which when we talk about some characters here in a minute, we'll jump in. But that was a
yeah,
huge way to start the season. That was where we did that, and as we talked about when we were kind of giving our thoughts on the season, the next one is the death of Rhaenys and the dragon battle at Rook's Rest was kind of the biggest action sequence of the season, and really the
sure,
only battle that we saw.
yeah. Foot battle, yeah. There was some dragon stuff.
But it was
Other
just like
drag,
setting villagers on fire. And a lot
right?
of times in this show, you saw the end. Like you would just see the aftermath of battle when they had those two families that they kept talking about the whole season that I could never figure out why. The Blackwoods and the
I know what you're talking about. Damon was trying to recruit all of them, but they were
yeah
warring, so that's why he
yeah.
spent so much time out there.
So
Uh,
yeah, I know I keep wanting to say Capulets and Montagues, and I know that's not right. Um,
yeah,
but yeah, you're just kind of sitting there like, what's going on? But they would battle, but you would just see like dead bodies everywhere, and you're like, well, I didn't see
sure.
any action in here, and I don't need action, but a little can help.
No,
So we got
yeah.
some
I mean,
action with this dragon battle at Rook's Rest that ended with Rhaenys and her dragon biting it, and
yeah,
Aegon basically being left on the ground, and they left that episode going, is he the king alive or dead? And in Game of Thrones fashion, you didn't really know. Um,
yeah. That was a good time, man. I think that was episode 4 or 5,
mhm.
so somewhere right in the middle. But that was fun. Like one of my top favorite. Seriously, one of my favorite things about this show is just like finally the use of the dragons in a way that Game of Thrones never did, and this show didn't do really in season 1. I'm just fascinated by the dragons. I don't know
Okay.
why. I've sat and looked so many times. Like I'd go and I'd look Google online, like what dragons are in uh House of the Dragon, and who's their rider and who's their former rider, and who's which one's the biggest one and which one's the smallest one, and how old is Rhaegar and how old is Vermintide. Like I love that shit. Like it's so cool. I've always liked dragon shit, man. It's why I like that goddamn Sean Connery movie that's a piece of trash.
Dude, that movie is not trash.
But just like I just love it. So the use of dragons in this in this season was really cool. Yeah, that fight, awesome. Rhaegar's a beast. That's why that side is so formidable, just because
Oh,
Aegon's their best warrior, and he's also
Aemon.
riding Aemond, yes, is their best warrior, and he's rides their biggest dragon. Um, I think he's got three dragon bodies to his name now, because he killed Rhaenyra's son in season 1. Now he's killed Meleys, and he also killed
Aegon.
his brother's dragon, the small one. So yeah, that shit's just super cool to me. Um, and everything kind of leading up to that was interesting too. Like Sir Kristen Cole, who was a piece of shit, son of a bitch. Um, him and Aemon kind of planning this without telling the king, and Aegon feeling less than, and everyone's like kind of doing things without his authority, and he feels like he's got to show up and prove himself. And he had the line like, "I'm as fierce as any of them," and he flies out there on his little dragon and sees Rhaegar flying around, and then like Aemon pulls the Scar and Mufasa thing, like, "Fuck you, brother, I'm gonna be king."
Scar. Long live the king. Ah!
Definitely sad when Rhaenyra, that's her name, right?
Rhaenys.
Rhaenys, so many R's. Uh, Sad when she died. That was an unexpected one. Game of Thrones has to pull those out every now and then and take out somebody you don't expect.
Yeah.
But yeah, a great sequence, and good made a good episode right there, I think.
And left it hanging a little bit with Aegon at the end and whether he was dead or not, and coming back in a box and still not knowing if he's dead or not, even though you would imagine that since they didn't show it, Game of Thrones
Hmm.
always shows it. So the fact that they didn't show it and left it as a cliffhanger, I know we got screwed when we talked about Invincible with that. We're like, they don't save deaths as a cliffhanger. But this time it didn't backfire on us with this one, because that was where I kind of figured he was alive, because they didn't show him dead. If he was going to die, they would have showed it at the end of that episode. They wouldn't have used it as a cliffhanger to come back next week.
I think there's more story to tell with him still being alive. Like,
definitely seems like it, with how
him being a broken person and a broken king and in danger, and Aemond is kind of now ruling on that side, but still has Aegon hanging by a thread over here. So what's going to happen with that? A lot of intrigue there.
Yeah, 100%. One of the scenes that I forgot about, that I was glad that I came back up when I was kind of looking up the big moments of this season, was Eric and Arik's battle. Talking about the same fucking name.
Right. Twin brothers named Eric and Arik.
Eric and Arik, the twin brothers. One was on one side and one was on the other. And Christian Cole, mad that Jaehaerys was murdered in the first episode, and he really wanted that revenge. So he sent Eric. Maybe? He sent his twin. Christian Cole sent his twin to go kill Rhaenyra on the other side and sneak in, pretend to be your brother, and kill the queen.
Yeah, in season 1, they were in scenes together because they used to be on the same side.
Yeah.
But like when the split happened after Jaehaerys died, and Rhaenyra's claiming the throne and Aegon's claiming the throne, those two brothers split and like chose who they were going to be loyal to. So you kind of forgot about that.
Yep.
But yeah, that was a cool way to end one of these episodes. I think it might have been episode 3. It was pretty early on.
Yeah, it was pretty early on, and then them having their one-on-one battle right in front of Rhaenyra. And of course they did it in a really cool way and obviously they're identical twins because they're played by the same person. So, it just kind of is what it is.
I think they're two people. They're real life brothers. I'm pretty sure.
Well, even better. I didn't look into it. I saw something that said he plays the brothers, so I thought it was one person. But anyway,
we'll research that later.
We'll research it later. It doesn't matter.
Yeah.
They clearly looked the same, so you got confused as to who was battling who. They were dressed the same because the one was pretending to be the other. So it was just kind of like, this is not going to end well because there's no way of knowing who won.
Right. It was hard to even tell afterwards who killed who and which one was the one who killed himself ultimately. Like,
I believe Rhaenyra's twin is the one that won,
but then still took himself out.
Yeah, but he knew that I can say it all day, but they're never going to believe me. So I need to do this gesture for her, for my queen, so she knows that it was me. I think that's the only, because if it was the other one.
That makes sense. Yeah.
If it was the other one, he'd be like, my queen, and they'd be like, yeah, we don't know, bye, and they would end up murdering him anyway. So I think he would have tried to pretend, where the hers would have done what he did, and yeah, it was heavy, and it meant a lot, and I wish I remembered those characters more from the first season.
Yeah, I think. I agree. I think that scene also did good in showing us and reminding us, and they kind of touched on it a little more later in the season too, that Rhaenyra is not a warrior. She was kind of like cowering in the bed and like helpless as to the outcome. Like, she's sitting there like, whatever happens here, if the guy who's my guy doesn't win, I'm gonna die, and whatever. And she's not. And later on, they showed her finally like picking up a sword and seeing what she might look like with a sword, and talking about how she's never had training as a fighter, and maybe that plays out more later in this the forthcoming seasons. But it's just like a reminder, like, oh yeah, she's a dragon rider, and she's like this queen, and she's fierce, but she doesn't know how to fight. You know what I mean? She's not I don't know.
The whole thing stems from this idea that people weren't going to accept her as the heir. And Jaehaerys named her, but that was unheard of. And, the whole world would never allow a queen, a woman, to sit on the Iron Throne. And that was kind of that's the whole thing. And I know she said somewhere in here, too, is like, hey, if I was a boy, I would have been raised to fight. I would have been raised to do this. I would have been raised to do that. But I was not given that. I was given knowledge. I was given information, different. I had a completely different upbringing. So you know. And like I said, that scene really does point that out.
Yeah, for sure.
Which was super cool. So it was nice, and I'm glad it popped back up when I was doing my research for this because it was a real big highlight of the show. I really loved that scene. I thought it was really good. Another thing I really liked was Rhaenyra and Alicent's face-to-faces. They gave us two, one towards the beginning and one in the finale. I really enjoyed their face-to-face, seeing them together. We watched the whole first season with them as little girls and then them as adults and being best friends, you know, and basically almost family. And then to see, obviously they had this split, but then it always still comes back down to their relationship. And when Rhaenyra snuck into King's Landing, into the church to have her like one-on-one with her, I just loved that scene. I thought that was really cool. And she really they just did, the two of them work well together. But then also to start to see those like seeds of doubt in Alicent's head, like, wait, did I fuck this up? Like really start to, I mean, she still doubled down that she was still right because she couldn't let herself believe that she might have misread or just didn't understand. But I just loved that scene. I thought that was such a great scene.
Yeah, those were two cool things that kind of deepens that relationship that we saw of them in season one, like you said. And I think in that first one, which first of all, before I even get into that, it's funny how close King's Landing and Dragonstone are.
Yeah.
Because you can like seriously,
it's like a bridge.
If you look at a map, they are pretty close in the world of Westeros.
Okay.
But it's just so funny in Game of Thrones, like when people were going somewhere, it took forever. Like if you're going from Winterfell to King's Landing, it took you like a month or something because all Aemon has to do is get back on the back of Rhaegar. He can fly to Dragonstone in like 15 minutes. It's pretty weird. So yeah, but yeah, those scenes were cool. It kind of filled in a lot of story and questions, and you had their first meeting where I think Alicent finally did realize what was going on, and that when Jaehaerys was dying, you know, he did say the name Aemon, but he meant a different Aemon from the Song of Fire and Ice. And this whole war is based on a misunderstanding now. And even Rhaenyra now got it and was telling Alicent, like, look, this is wrong. I'm the heir he chose, and you're doing all this based on misinformation, and we got to stop this. And Alicent being like, it's too late. Which really, it is too late.
Yeah.
Because now her sons are in place, and she's not going to be able to go tell them, hey, guys, we messed up. Really, it's your sister who is supposed to be queen. They'd be like, fuck that. Yeah, I'm king. You know what I mean? So, and their second meeting was cool, too. A lot of different stuff. Her finally agreeing to, yes, I agree. Like, your son died, my son has to die, and it's a hard thing, and it's whatever. But, yeah, those were two good scenes, I think.
Her realizing that she messed up, as well as just like, hey, yeah, my kids can't do this. They're crazy. They can't do this. This isn't right. And basically giving Rhaenyra the throne and saying, I will open the door. My kids won't be there. We'll just let it go. And even Rhaenyra's like, I need Aegon's head. And she's like, okay. And willing to sacrifice Aegon. Which is just crazy. And then, of course, you know, Aegon is on the lam at that point, which she doesn't know about. So that's going to, I'm sure, lead into some fun in season 3. But yeah, the two, like I mentioned, the two of them work well together, and you didn't really know if you were going to get any scenes with them or if they were going to be separated. So the fact that they did go out of their way to give us two really good scenes with them was a treat. I did enjoy that.
For sure.
One of the other things is we got the common dragon riders, as you talked about. Rhaenyra kind of had this quest throughout this season to kind of figure out how to, especially after Rhaenys's dragon went down, she was only down to her dragon? Her dragon and maybe Daemon's daughter.
We're talking about...
Oh, she had 3? Did she have 3 dragons?
Alicent's side?
No, Rhaenyra's. Once a dragon died, Rhaenys's dragon died at Dragon's Rook or Rook's Rest. Then Rhaenyra...
She was working with her own dragon, her son's dragon, her bastard son's dragon. What's his name?
I don't know the kids' names.
You know who I'm talking about, though.
I know, he's the brown-haired kid who was mad that he was a bastard the whole season.
Yeah. I was going to say Seth, but that's not his name.
Seth? We'll call him Seth.
She has her own dragon. He has a dragon. One of Daemon's daughters.
Yeah.
One of Daemon's first daughters the older one has a dragon. And I think it was those
It was just those
three,
three was what they were down to.
because after Rook's Rest, when they lost that one, so I think they were down to those three at that moment. I think.
But they still had 3 dragons that were just riderless that they needed to find homes, but they were out of heirs and out of Targaryens to actually do it. So they decided.
Or she also had Daemon's, but Daemon's like out.
He was doing his own thing, yeah.
Yeah.
Which we'll talk about here in a minute. But
yeah.
So she's out of dragons. Her and Seth came up with a plan to figure out what if we use the bastards. The bastards that are out there. I can remember that name. And it doesn't sound like someone else.
I think it's Jace. I think it's Jace.
Okay.
Yeah.
That sounds like something.
Just trust me.
I do. I trust you. So they came up with their plan of like, hey, let's just look through, and we know that there's a lot of Targaryen DNA out there into the world, so let's see if we can maybe find some and see if that would work.
They were like, these Targaryens been in a lot of whorehouses over the years. There's probably a lot of unclaimed bastard Targaryen children out there in the world.
And we didn't realize, but they had a lot of side quests, side stories going on that were showing all of these bastard Targaryens across the board between Adam and Alan, Hugh, Ulf, plus a whole bunch of other ones. So so then we, Rhaenyra definitely runs into, let's come up with a plan. And it was one of the cooler scenes with the dragons in the show was when they basically put all the common folk there and said, don't get eaten, good luck. And chaos ensued. I thought it was just a great scene, and that ended with Hugh getting his dragon. Ulf got a dragon there, which I didn't like. I was like, that dude is a twerp. He doesn't deserve a dragon.
Yeah, you had to have one guy who's like the odd man out, like the black cow, black sheep, black cow, what the hell? Just someone who's not used to being like a highborn and just like a vulgar jerk, kind of.
Yeah.
We'll see how that kind of plays out. And like, I feel like he only got his dragon, which I can't even remember the name of that dragon, Star or something. I don't know. But like, he was the only one in the pit with that one, and I think that dragon was just lonely. The first guy who comes down here and talks to me, I'm gonna let be my rider, because Verminthor was just killing motherfuckers, and Sea Smoke went out there and chose his own. But yeah, just more of the cool dragon stuff to me, just like dragons choosing riders and killing people who try and aren't worthy, and being like, no, I don't like you, so I'm gonna burn the shit out of 100 men down here. And the one guy who's finally worthy is like, yeah, he's got heart, man. He screamed in my face, I pick you.
You want to save that woman that was down there about to get did.
Yeah.
So yeah, it was definitely it was a cool scene. It was a cool scene.
That was fun.
And that was where we ended with all of the dragons. Because wasn't that the end of the 7th episode where they all were sitting on their dragons when Aemon was coming, and everyone was like, that's where you should have ended it?
Yeah, that would have been a better season finale, last image to me, to be honest.
100%.
But I don't get paid the big bucks to write these shows. What do I know?
Right. So we got some common dragon riders and Hugh, Ulf, and Adam. Definitely be interesting to see how they progress with that going into the following next couple seasons as we get going with the war, hopefully. Where we have basically 3 people that aren't noble, they're not trained, they're not really prepared for what she's about to throw them into. And I really feel like that's going to be a negative for her. Like, yes, she got a plan. Yes, she's got a couple more dragon riders, but they don't know what they're doing. And they're not ready they were already basically saying, get ready for war. We're going now, so yeah. I feel like they have this nice, easy plan with Alicent to be like, hey, let's go just come and we'll open the doors. And I still feel like that's going to go really horribly. And a lot of it's probably going to come down to the fact that you have these people that are undisciplined in the position that they are now in, as being like the top of the top of this campaign, this family.
Yeah, they're not all gonna make it out. We're gonna have more dragon deaths. There was even one more dragon we're forgetting about, the Daemon's youngest daughter, who's been yearning for her own dragon. Uh,
Yeah,
found that one who was
the
like the
sheep
wild
stealer.
sheep stealer. She found sheep stealer out in the wild, who's been like a wild dragon, just causing havoc in whatever area she was in at the moment. But we did see her finally get a visual on that dragon finally, so that's gonna be something that plays out hopefully a little more. That's another one for her camp.
Yeah, I mean, Rhaenyra's definitely ended this season. She won this season.
Yeah.
Ultimately, if you're gonna weigh out the starting first stabs at this war, she definitely came out ahead. She ended up with a lot more dragons and a lot more power, and I mean, specifically an opening to just end it. So
she's got more dragons, but they have Vhagar, who's a monster.
yeah, I mean, yeah, like you said, he's already killed a couple dragons. So
yeah,
definitely that. But let's dive into just a little bit of some of our main characters and kind of the journey that they went on, just to kind of wrap up this conversation about the show and just kind of get a little bit more ideas. But obviously, Rhaenyra Targaryen is kind of the main character of this show. We saw her grow up from a little girl all the way into where she is now, as trying to be a queen as best as she can. And how did you feel? I mean, she started with basically being a grieving mother this season, and then ended up being basically a queen. How did you like Rhaenyra's journey this season? Was there anything that stood out, or
nothing crazy stands out? But I still think about all the characters as a whole, and I even think back to Game of Thrones, where I cared about so many people. This show, I don't care about a lot of the people, but I still care about Rhaenyra. I think back to her as with the child with Miley Alcock in season 1, who I really liked, but I also like the new actress, and I like, her portrayal, and I just like, I don't know, I feel like she's the only good person still in a way, because she hasn't done anything really shitty this entire time, and she's just trying to lead and do what her father asked, and stand up and be like, no, just because I'm a woman, I can lead. I can be a good queen, and I don't know. I root for Rhaenyra, so I'm still on Team Rhaenyra. I think I liked her throughout the season. Nothing monumental really happened with her.
Yeah.
This year, I did appreciate the performance of like her sadness, obviously grieving and working through that, and all the drama with Daemon and everything. But I don't know. I'm a Rhaenyra fan.
Yeah, I am. And looking back, it's a lot more of just putting it all together now that we've seen the journey, this chapter of the journey. So I can definitely see the growth, and I can see where she was really going. She was, like I mentioned a minute ago, she started grieving over her dead son, and then went to rage, and then really kind of realized her place in this, and that she's still, her and Alicent, which we'll talk about here in a second, really following the same journey, where they're the woman in the room that everyone kind of thinks they know better than, but they're technically the ones that should be in charge, so it's like, no, listen to me, but no one wants to, just because of their gender. And I think it just kind of led to a big just journey in that. I think she learned a lot by saying, hey, I want a son for a son, and that leading to a child being murdered, Alicent's grandson being murdered. I think really hit her hard, of just realizing the power that she does wield and how to do that. And I think there's lessons in there for that. And then like we mentioned, just her wanting to become a warrior and wanting to be all encompassing with that. So I think she had a good journey. It just was scattered within the poor pacing of the show. So it's like, stepping back, I can look at it and say, okay, she's still not my favorite character, but like you said, she's really the only one that hasn't done horrible things or stupid things or anything that makes you go, unlikable. She's one of the only ones that hasn't done anything unlikable yet. So
true.
So I enjoyed her thing. Now, speaking of unlikable, we got Alicent Hightower. I could care less for her. Like she had just moments that I just like. She had those couple scenes with Rhaenyra. I enjoyed those, but I just felt like she really just wasn't used for anything. Like her whole point was just to kind of be lost And she had, spent the first couple episodes just banging Christian Cole. And then after that, she just was being pushed further away from her sons and being pushed out of the inner circle and kind of doing all that stuff. And she didn't really take to it very well. But I just feel like it just kind of, then we just kind of went on these weird, just figuring out her journey. Like, who am I? She's floating in a lake. And I'm just like,
Yeah.
okay, it came back around for the finale where she's basically offering the throne to Rhaenyra. So, I mean, she obviously has a role to play, but it's still just like, it wasn't really a fun journey watching her this season.
No, I got no sympathy for Alicent. I haven't liked Alicent since the first season when she became Jaehaerys's, wife. And I know that wasn't her choice really, but like ever since then, she just has this air of, she knows and she's better and she deserves this. Like she don't deserve anything.
Well, especially everything's her fault. So
right. So like I like when she's finally coming to the realization that her son, Aegon, her son, who was the king first, is an idiot and doesn't know what he's doing. And then when he goes down, Aegon gets the thing and he's ruthless and he's a psychopath and he shouldn't be leading us. And her finally getting to that realization, I'm just like, yeah, you deserve this. So I have no sympathy for her because if she could have just been okay with, her best friend rightfully being queen, we wouldn't be having any of these problems and she wouldn't have been outcast and thrown to the side. So I don't feel bad for Alicent. But like you said, I'm sure she does have a larger role to play moving forward. But
if it's that selfishness, like I said, she spent her whole life around Rhaenyra, raising up with her and hearing Jaehaerys say, "This is my heir, this is my heir, this is my heir," and to be so selfish that
because now it's my son.
Now it's my son.
My
son. He decided my son. That's who he wants. You're just like, come on.
Right.
You know better.
Yeah.
She didn't do anything for me this season. It was just kind of
got it.
It's another Alicent scene. Outside of those two that I mentioned earlier.
Yeah.
Daemon had a journey, and I think this is kind of going to be, we haven't really talked about Daemon too much yet. He didn't pop up in any of the really big moments of the show, except for probably about what we're going to talk about. But Daemon, as you said, and I loved the visual of it, so I'm going to keep it going, but he spent the season in Luigi's mansion.
Yeah.
Walking around, just, I don't know. Daemon was a character that I really felt like every scene he was in season 1, I was like, yes, another Daemon scene. And this one, I was like, ugh, another Daemon scene. I did not enjoy his journey. I understand why he had to go on it, but I did not think it needed to go on as long as it went on. And just really sideline him for pretty much the whole season just seemed like a waste.
Yeah, 8 episodes of him in that mansion or that castle.
Yeah.
Too much, man. Way too much.
Yeah.
They could have dealt with that in a number of episodes and had him. I understand after watching the finale why they did it because they wanted him the moment of him. He finally gathered this army and like, is he for Rhaenyra or is he not, or is he for himself? And be like, no, he's not. He's for her. Okay, cool moment, but just wanting to put that in the finale, the result of that, him having to spend 8 episodes on like this weird, trippy, like he's seeing visions and seeing things and over here by himself and not being impactful. Everyone else is at war and he's just sleeping in this bed and seeing visions and talking to this witch. It's like, man, what a waste of him. He's such a cool character and like he's their strongest warrior. Like I want him involved in this stuff, man. I want him out there intimidating the other side, Alicent's family and Aegon, and I want Aegon scared of Daemon and them, like the potential of them possibly clashing at some point in this season, which is probably still to come. But it's like I would have liked to see some of that.
Yeah,
I like Daemon, loved him. He's the badass of this world. Like Game of Thrones always had one of those, whether it's Jaime Lannister in the first season, or there's a couple different choices of just someone who's like, he's a fearsome dude, you know what I mean? And that's what he was. So just kind of wasted in season 2. And it's kind of sad. Matt Smith's a great actor. I like, everything about him in the first season. It's just like, why did you guys do this to him this year?
Yeah.
So
My problem was I understand he was struggling because felt he should be the heir, and he felt his brother should have gave him the throne.
He's always felt that, yeah.
My problem was because it's been 2 years, I wholeheartedly believed that they dealt with that in the first season.
Right.
So I'm like, why are we backtracking with him? Now upon further reflection and research and conversations, I've realized that they really didn't deal with that. So kind of coming back.
But they kind of did, because they still got married and like are together, him and.
But I think he thought that if we got married, then I would be king, she would be queen, but I would be the one with all the power. And I think after he got scolded for getting Jaehaerys killed, the
undermining her,
killed,
kind of, yeah.
undermining her, and then she let him have it. I think he realized, oh shit, she's not just gonna give me what I want. This kind of plan that I had really isn't gonna work the way I want it to. So I think he kind of just got checked in a way that he didn't like. So he went through a temper tantrum at a haunted mansion for the season. But in my head, I was like, I don't need this conflict. I don't need this journey. I don't need the weird visions. Like I said, to see the cameos with young Rhaenyra, to see Harris back, that was all cool, but it just wasn't what he should have spent the entire season doing. Now it did lead to the Vision, which was a big moment where they nostalgia baited us with Game of Thrones images. You remember all these things that you liked? Here's a White Walker.
Yeah. They just wanted that moment of a character finally in the season to say winter is coming. Probably the first person to ever say winter is coming, and have you point at the screen like the Leonardo DiCaprio meme.
Yeah.
Yeah, a lot of connecting it to Game of Thrones. And here's your White Walker. Here's your dead dragons. Here's Daenerys and with 3 baby dragons. Here's the 3-eyed raven. Like, oh my God, all these connections.
Yeah.
It is Game of Thrones.
That he saw, and now he realizes what his role in the story is. And for anyone, because it spread across social media like wildfire after he saw that vision. And this is, if you watch Game of Thrones, you should know that Daenerys was not the one in the prophecy.
Right.
A lot of people that thought that was a prophecy that was being shown, and that Daenerys was the one that is being foretold by the prophecy. And you're like, no, it's Aegon, who is Jon Snow. We dealt with this already. That was Game of Thrones.
Yeah.
Jon Snow was the Targaryen that was prophesized, and he was the one that came. That's why he was banging his aunt when that show ended, and he killed his lover aunt.
Things are gonna get complicated over the next 100 years over there.
Yeah, so. but Daenerys was not the prophecy. Yeah. She had her role, just like Daemon figured out what his role is to support Rhaenyra. So hopefully he's all in, and he's just, I love her. I love you. I love you. I love you. And he just brings his army, and they can just move on. So
just as long as we get him out of that haunted castle, even though it gave us that character, like that main older guy with the beard, he was awesome. I don't know why. Just like the guy who'd be like, oh, my liege, Prince Regent, like that little chubby dude just walking around. I don't know why I liked him so much. I was like, he's so cute. Just like shuffling around that castle. And like he overheard that thing, and I saw some meme that was like him looking around the corner. Remember when he was like listening to that conversation about Rhaenyra is not the right one, you should be our king, and he like overheard it.
Oh yeah.
I saw somebody with a hilarious meme that was just like that image, and it was like, if I send you this, it means I heard your little conversation.
That's a good one. That's a good one. I heard you. I was around the corner. Man, that's a good one. That's a good one. But yeah, it did give us that. Hopefully we're not done with little dude.
Right.
Another character I did actually enjoy when his scenes would pop up was Aegon II. I liked King Aegon. I liked his just ridiculousness. I loved his immaturity. I loved his he definitely had an arc this season from when we started with him just being the foolhardy king, watching his son fuck around with people while they're supposed to be talking about real stuff and laughing and having the just kind of watching him go from that to I'm not taken seriously to now I'm a cripple, and it just kind of was
he had a journey.
He had a ride.
Yeah, he did. I can't say I hated him in this, but he's playing his role right. Like he's kind of like a version of Joffrey a little bit,
A
just
little.
like
It's not as
a
cruel.
young, not as cruel, but just a young king who's not fit, is not ready, does not know how to rule, and is just obsessed with being in that role because they think they deserve it. But everyone would be better off if it was someone else. It's kind of
Mhm.
like follows that same thing. Um, so yeah, I mean, he probably did have the most journey throughout this season, going from that to that to that. So I don't mind him, and he looks like the lead singer of My Chemical Romance, and that's all I could think about when I saw him.
Yeah, he does. And you know what? He's also the one who looks the worst in that wig.
Sure,
Everyone else kind of
can
pulls it
pass.
off. He's the one that his wig looks the worst for some reason. I don't know.
Very well.
And then Aemond Targaryen, good old one
Mm.
eye. He is one of the
Snarl lips.
snarl lips. He became the character that I thought Daemon was in the first season, where when an Aemon scene kind of popped up, I was like, what are we about to get? And
Right.
he's bringing it. He brought it this season of just kind of being ruthless
Yeah.
and wanting to do stuff. And like I said, basically killing the king to get what he wants, to get through. He's going to run anyone over. Him trying to force his sister to go jump on a dragon and go burn some little people,
Yeah.
and kind of really going all out with that. So I enjoyed Aemond. He was kind of
No, he's cool. He's cool, man.
he's horrible, but
Yeah, he is
it was done
horrible.
really well.
He's definitely the villain. Like every Game of Thrones needs a villain. Um, he's the villain right now. I can't think of somebody worse who's more of a threat to things, who's like gives you that feeling, like you said, when they're on screen, where you're like, oh, what's gonna happen? What's he gonna do? He is that guy right now. So it's vital to a show like this to have a character like that. So yeah, he's cool. And like you said, Rhaenyra kind of got the upper hand on their side, but he's Daemon. He's Aegon, and he has the biggest dragon in.
Aemond.
He's Aemond. Jesus Christ, he's Aemond, and he has the biggest dragon in Westeros. So can't ever count him out. So yeah, I'm definitely into what they're doing with that character, and we'll love to see where they go with it.
Yeah, I think especially when shit starts going. I mean, the idea of the rage that he's going to have when he realizes when he goes out on his mission and his mom is trying to give up his throne.
Right.
With that, his brother, he wanted to kill Aegon, and Aegon now went fleeing off with Limsalot, and I can't remember his name. And then comes Smallfoot, or
You're saying a little finger. There's not a little finger and a small foot. I
yeah,
know what you're talking about. Limpy with the cane,
yeah. Didn't he have a foot fetish in the first season somewhere?
possibly.
Yeah, it seemed like they were doing that. But they ended us with a lot of foreshadowing of things to come, which we've talked about, with Alicent willing to sacrifice her now on the Lamb's son. Targaryen common board dragon riders that are going to fuck some shit up in a good way and bad way, because I don't see that
Yeah.
going smoothly. And Daemon still kind of not exactly knowing where he fits in, or we don't know. Is he going to stay devoted to her? Is he done? Was the vision enough?
Yeah.
So a lot of foreshadowing in kind of that, but it was, like I said, looking back at the season, talking about it, things happen, but we just spent an hour talking about it, but it took us 10 hours to watch it.
Sure.
And I think
Yeah,
we hit all the peaks.
the pacing was off, man, and that's why I kind of started this conversation with saying I have a love hate thing with this season. Like you and I sitting here talking about, we talk about a lot of cool stuff, a lot of cool characters and a lot of cool moments, but just overall, it's like when you really think about it as a whole, like what really happened? Like not enough for to call it. This is the second season of a major of a Game of Thrones show of
Right.
House of the Dragon, and like you're like, what happened? I don't know, nothing really. They're just kind of wanting us to watch season 3 really bad. So it's like the whole finale was really, like I said, 70 minutes of a trailer for can't wait for this to happen, but we're going to see you guys in 2 years. We haven't gotten this huge battle yet. We'll see you guys in 2 years. They all got their sides together finally after 8 episodes. See you guys in 2 years. Like, that's the kind of stuff that just like, man, I don't like that.
Right.
It's like a movie where it's like, you know, the real stuff's going to happen in the sequel. You know, it's just, it's annoying. It's frustrating. But
100%.
every season of a show should be able to stand on its own merit and not be like, we just kind of hooked you to stay with us for another year. You know what I mean?
Yeah.
So,
and
that's where my frustrations come from.
Yeah, and mine comes from the fact of, and it's, I think, hitting me even harder during this conversation. But I think the characters in this show just overall are weak. I don't think there's enough there in any. The characters just don't have enough. Like when we're talking about Game of Thrones, you're name dropping Joffrey. I'm immediately feeling all these emotions of just like how horrible was Joffrey, how great was he in just like an acting kind of sense where you just hated that kid. How awesome was it? Like how insane was it when he got poisoned? Like that was fucking like crazy television where you're just like, oh shit. You know, like what is going to happen from this? And you felt dread because you don't know what's going to happen. And there were characters that shouldn't have been there that were. Talk about some of these other characters. I was thinking about Arya Stark when you were talking about badasses with swords. You know, like Arya was there. I know you said what was the blonde dude? What the hell was
Jamie
Lannister.
Yeah.
Jamie, like there were so many characters where it was like every scene that went by, you were just like, oh. Yes, I love it. You know, there was just so much, like so many characters that were just so good, and this show just doesn't have it. Like some of the characters are doing
characters in Game of Thrones I had so many connections to.
Yeah.
So many different characters. Whereas like you can go through an episode and be like, this is their scene. I'm like, oh, I love that guy. I love her. Next scene, another guy, like, I love this too. There's like 15 different people that I'm caring about all at the same time, and this show does lack that. You're right.
Like, I don't care about any of these characters.
Yeah.
Like you said, Rhaenyra is probably the only one who hasn't done anything despicable. Where I would be like, ugh, but I still don't really care. Like, I don't care if she's queen or not. Like, she deserves it. It's hers based on the story that we're told, but I don't care.
Sure.
And just going through the characters, yeah, they have moments, yeah, they have this, but it's just like, I don't feel anything. I don't feel anything talking about these characters that I have felt that I feel when we've been name-dropped Game of Thrones characters. I'm immediately flooded with feelings, and that doesn't happen. And I think that's the show's biggest thing that they need to figure out, is what these characters mean, who they are, and why should we care?
Yeah.
And that's, I feel like, what became the biggest struggle with me coming back week to week was it was still just like I'm really just watching it for the moments and not the characters. And I think that's just the biggest weakness at this. I didn't have that in season 1. I felt like I cared about the characters. I was excited a lot more, and for whatever reason this season just didn't bring it in the same way.
Yeah.
And made me, like, I know I mentioned it with Damon. I loved every scene Damon was in. I was like, here we go. What are we getting? And like little girl Alicent and Rhaenyra, you know, going through them, I loved all of their scenes and what they were doing. And there was just, I don't know, it just had a different feel to it that this season's missing.
Yeah. Ultimately, I agree. And I'm not even going to sit here and say it's a shame because I'm not going to stop watching it. So when this show re-premieres in 2026 or whenever they're going to do it again, because there's another spinoff coming in 2025 called like The Night of the Seven Kingdoms or something. There's another spinoff on the way next year. But I'll be seated for season 3 of this. Yeah. And I know I will. Just because I am invested, but I'm just a little disappointed in this season, but I still had my fair amount of fun. It had me coming back every Sunday. Yeah. You know what I mean? So that says something. But just
there's a part of me that misses that is already kind of sad that it's not going to be on in an hour and a half. I would definitely. Yeah, I mean, I'm not going anywhere. I'm here. I'm watching it. I've thought about rewatching the first season again just to kind of catch the things I'm missing. I've thought about reading the Game of Thrones books just to kind of be in, like, I want to be in this world, and it's definitely something that I want. So gonna keep up. I'm gonna watch the spinoff next year, whatever the fuck you just said. I'm gonna watch it.
Right,
I don't know
right.
what it is. I'll be
Right.
there to watch it.
Yeah.
Did you watch
Yeah,
any of the like behind the scenes episodes that they dropped?
We didn't watch those yet because I just feared spoilers or something. Even though I didn't, I'm sure they wouldn't have, but I think we're going to. I think we still want to because it looks
I like
interesting.
behind the scenes documentary
Yeah.
type stuff. I just didn't know. I didn't watch any either. I thought about it. They were only like little 20-minute. I assumed they had to do with the episode that just aired, but maybe I'm wrong.
Yeah. No,
But yeah,
I
just curious.
I
just
plan to check
curious.
those out. Yeah.
All right. Well, I think that's going to wrap up our conversation on House of the Dragon Season 2. We'll be back in 2 years to talk about Season 3.
All right.
God willing.
God willing.
God willing, we will be here to talk about Season 3. Will you be? Make sure you like and subscribe to Raised a Geek to make sure you don't miss a thing. You can also let us know what you thought about House of the Dragon Season 2 by emailing us at raisedageek@gmail.com and hit us up on social media. All of the platforms Raised a Geek. If you're over on YouTube or any podcast, just make sure you subscribe so you don't miss a thing. And drop some comments and let us know what you thought of House of the Dragon Season 2. We'll be back next week talking about something.
We always do.
We'll figure something out as soon as we get done with this conversation. So I think that's going to do it for us this week. So for Raised a Geek, I'm Chris.
And I'm Don.
And thanks for checking out the show.
Where geek is all we speak.